Okay.
Perfect. We're live. So do we want to introduce ourselves? Do you want to go first, Amanda?
Okay. My name is Amanda, and this is my third Jane Austen Book Club book for the year with Mary and now Victoria. And I have a channel that I'm not posting to this year called Her Pacific Northwest Washington Life. I'm somewhat active on Instagram, but not a whole lot. I like to procrastinate on posting pictures. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Perfect. Do you want to go, Victoria?
Sure. My name's Victoria, and I am from the channel A Musical Bookworm and also Instagram at the same name. And this is my second Jane Austen that I'm reading with these ladies. They read Pride and Prejudice, and then I missed Sense and Sensibility, but I'm going to read that next month and catch up. And so this is my first time reading Mansfield Park. So I'd never read it before. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody has to say about it. And hi, Ellie. Hi, Serena. Welcome.
Ellie, do you want to go?
Yes. Hi, my name is Ellie, and my channel is the Personal Cozy Project. And this is my first live, so I am a little nervous.
Yay!
Yay, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me to this live.
Yes, I'm so glad you could make it. Serena, is your audio working? Maybe she was saying that she has some connection issues, so maybe if it...
Her video's a little frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen for me too. So maybe if she is able to make it work, she can do an introduction. But my name's Mary. This is my channel, so if you found it, then you found me. I started this project this year, and this is the third book that we're reading, like Amanda said. So we've already read Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice, and this month we read Mansfield Park. So I'm so happy that everyone was able to make it to the live. I didn't know how many people were going to be on it, but I'm glad that we've got a big group because that way we'll have a lot of discussion probably. But do we want to just go ahead and say like how we felt about the book? Or maybe discuss what it was about a little bit? Or do we want to start with how we felt about it? What do you guys think?
Maybe a short synopsis and then...
Okay, sure. Yeah. So if you don't know, Mansfield Park is the third book that Jane Austen wrote, and it's about Fanny Price, who comes to live with her relatives. She's from a relatively poor family in Portsmouth, but she has two aunts who live in, is it Northamptonshire? Is that North? I don't know how things are pronounced.
I think, yeah, Northamptonshire.
Okay. But hey, Serena, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry about that. My name is Serena, and my channel is A Wandering Mind. I haven't quite finished the book. I am on chapter 44, and I think there are 48 chapters, so I am almost done, but I know how it ends because I watched the movies. So.
Perfect. I have not seen the movie.
Me either.
I didn't even... Well, I guess I did know that there was one. Is it the 1999 one that you saw, Serena? Okay.
Are you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was asking which movie you saw. Do you know what year it was?
No, I watched the 99 and the 2007, okay. So I watched both of them.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know there was a 2007 one.
Which one's better?
The 99. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's about Fanny who goes to live with her relatives and just sort of the bad way that they treat her. And then her growing up with her cousins. And there's these people, the Crawfords, who Fanny's really dubious of. So Fanny's like got the moral high ground above everybody. And does anyone else want to say anything else about it? I don't know. I feel like it's just a very meandering story about like Fanny's adolescence and like what she sort of lives with, I guess, and like what it is like coming from a poor family and going to live with like your relatives and how she's treated. Okay.
Yeah.
Fanny was a little bit of like a Cinderella story. She's a little bit of a Cinderella kind of protagonist. So yeah, you kind of see how she she develops and how she's kind of like the moral high ground and everyone around her is terrible.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, they're all horrendous.
Yeah. Gosh, and they treat her so badly, but they also treat each other so badly. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
I guess. Oh, go
Mary,
ahead.
this was your first time reading the book, and it's your third Jane Austen now.
Yes.
This was the only Jane Austen novel that I haven't read yet. And then Victoria, where was it for you?
It's my third. I've read two. I've only read Pride and Prejudice and Emma. So this is the third one that I've read too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ellie, this was a reread for you, right?
Yes, and I've read all the novels.
Okay, great.
Ellie's an expert.
Yeah.
No, not at all, but I'm a looking fan.
What about you, Serena?
I had only read Pride and Prejudice years ago, and so this is my first time reading Mansfield Park too.
Gotcha.
Cool.
How did everyone feel about it? Because Amanda and I kind of talked about it a little bit before the live, but how did everyone else?
I liked it. It's
Okay.
It wasn't a favorite, but I liked it because I like Fanny. Everyone was unlikable. The only likable character for me was Fanny, because I think she is the most relatable character in here. Everyone was either boring. I thought Edmund was boring. Mrs. Norris was horrible, but it was fun to read her parts.
Yeah.
But and Mary and Henry, I have mixed feelings about. I mean, Henry is not the worst character ever, but I have mixed feelings about them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Before we started the live, Mary and I were talking, and I was comparing the characters in Mansfield Park to Sense and Sensibility, how they're kind of, everyone fits a very like specific trope or characteristic, and they're all kind of 2D.
Yeah.
And that's what Mansfield Park characters felt like. Like you've got the one who's like very moral, you've got the unapologetic flirt, and you've got the just the mean aunt and all that stuff. And there's just not, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of depth to the characters or development, but there kind of is in some of them along the way. So it's really interesting just to kind of go from the depth of the characters in Pride and Prejudice to this. And I was wondering too, if in the 10-year span between Pride and Prejudice and this, if that's when Austen was mainly focusing on writing more of her like short story collections. And then when she came back to a novel, if she was experimenting with a different sort of writing style.
Yeah, that could be, because it definitely reads, I mean, differently than the other ones that I've read.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like what you were, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Mary. Just to comment on what Amanda was saying, I kind of felt that way too, but I also think it might have been intentional on Jane Austen's part, because I think this story was more a social commentary rather than like a romance story. And so I think she wanted them to be like kind of representative of like certain people groups, and like certain class systems. There's a lot of class system interest in this book. So I feel like she might have done that intentionally. And it's just not the Jane Austen that I was used to. So it wasn't like super fun to read for this one as much as I've had fun with her other stuff.
Yeah, I feel that. I think also like I didn't have the expectation that it was going to be like that. So it was kind of jarring and harder to get into for me, because that's not what I was expecting, I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The first time that I read it, I had a little bit of problem to get into the novel, but then I read more and more, and then I started to get into it. And like you said, Victoria, it is really different. And I also think Jane Austen did it on purpose because she was trying other kind of stories, other kind of characters. And now that I read it for the second time, I discovered lots of chapters that I really like, because they feel a little bit like they are really romantic in the way that, for example, there are chapters where Fanny is really jealous of Mary, and Edmund is really I want to be with Mary, and also Henry Crawford, he's in love with Fanny at the end. Of course, he's not perfect at all, and he is not in love for a long time. But I have the feeling that he really was in love with her. So these aspects I thought were the romantic part for me, that this time I could enjoy more, and I could think about it or discover little things, and that made it for me more like the Jane Austen that I know from the other books.
Yeah. I was going to ask, did everyone think that Henry was actually in love with Fanny?
I think he thought he was.
I think he was for that spell, but I think just his character.
But he can't be trusted.
Yeah, I don't think he could stay in love with something for very long. I think he moves away from things. He always wants the new experience and the excitement.
Yeah, okay. Because I kind of read that as like I don't know, like the trope that's in like teen movies now where they're like, I'm going to make this girl fall in love with me and then embarrass her. That's how I read that. I don't know if that's what it was supposed to be, but like
he started out that way.
Okay.
That was his intention in the beginning, and then he's like, wait, I do love her.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just wanting to get a feel for how everyone else felt about that, because I don't know. I was like, does he even like her? I don't understand why this has happened.
Yeah. He started out as it like it was a joke. Like, I'm going to fall in love with me.
Yeah, he told his sister, he's like, I need this one last, rung on my ladder. I've got to prove that I can make her fall in love with me too. And then somewhere along the way, some switch flipped, and he's like, nope, I'm in love. She's the one I'm going to marry.
Yes.
And then not long after, gonna run away with this one who already likes me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to wait any more longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I had a problem.
Go ahead, Serena.
I was about to say that I had a problem with the pacing a little bit, because at first it was really quick, because they talked about the sisters, and then they basically adopted the niece, and then it slowed down from the play until Henry proposed, and then it got quick again. So I had a problem with the pacing a little bit.
I agree. I think it took way too long with the play, because I was really liking the book up until that point. And then I was like, okay, I don't know why we've just spent like 100 pages talking about who is going to act in the play. And I also didn't understand why the play was like a bad thing. I didn't really get why the dad got mad about it, or like Sir Thomas or whatever. I don't know.
It's like scandalous at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the play is about though.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that play, but I know there were some lines that they had to cut because of the scandalous nature behind them.
Yeah, I think
The
it was
impropriety.
Exactly, Mary. The impropriety of the subject matter, and also there's also I was reading some commentary about that as well, because I was like, what's the deal with this play that doesn't happen?
Yeah.
But it looks like just like acting in general, it was also like culturally by some considered like dishonest, like you're being dishonest as an actor. And so there's like I think there's some cultural stuff there that we don't really have anymore.
Yeah.
That was like bad theater,
Yeah. Like, it's okay to go watch a play, but you can't be in a play.
Right.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm glad you looked that up.
I wanted to say, this time I've read the play. I am not finished, but I've read most of it, and I can understand a little bit more why it was. For them it was scandalous, because Amelia, the main character of the play, she's really, really direct with Anhalt, the male character, and she says to him, I want to marry you, but just really direct, and not.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like something a girl from that time would say
Right.
avoid, and I suppose that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
I have to read the play next month. It's called Four Loves, isn't it?
Lovers vows,
Lover's Vow.
Lover's Vows, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
and it is not so long. I think it says 2 hours. I think in my ebook. I need more. I needed more time, but it says there less than 2 hours. I think.
Okay.
That's
Very
cool, Ellie.
interesting.
That's cool that you read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was inspired because this time I am liking Mansfield Park even more, so I was inspired.
That's awesome.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Good deal. Well, Amanda, do you want to go through some of the questions that you had?
Yeah, I feel like the last question I posted in the chat kind of goes with Serena's idea on the pacing, but it's the narrator often withholds exciting details and scenes from us. For instance, we get pretty limited information about the book's major scandals. What's the impact of this withheld or secondhand information on the narrative? I do feel like there's certain aspects that we got a lot of detail on, and then there were others that is just like it was very secondhand. Like we're learning it as Fanny is learning it, and then we're only getting kind of her interpretation of the events versus actually like reading what's going on as well.
Yeah. And even with like Edmund went to talk to Mary about it after the fact, and he tells Fanny what she told him. So it's very like
Telephone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did think that was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know really. Well, I do know, but I didn't put these questions in any order. I don't know if anyone else has any, but we could just go through what I've got if you're all okay with that.
Yeah, we can go through it and then just sort of see what we come up with.
I borrowed them from the internet, so these are not my own.
Perfect.
Okay. In one of the book's most famous scenes, Fanny sits wilted in the heat at the Rushworth estate while the other characters come and go around her. Discuss the ways this epitomizes the entire plot of the book.
I feel like that kind of goes to the last question that you just asked too, with like her getting secondhand information. Because if she's just, a lot of the book does feel like she's just sort of sitting there and things are happening around her.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, she's like the anchoring point for the story that we get, but we're not really learning about her life as much. Yeah. It's just about like all of these other events.
Right. Well, and then it not being first person, it being third person, we're not even hearing her thoughts necessarily as things are going, like her fully formed thoughts. We're just kind of hearing generalized thoughts too, which I think is really interesting. I kind of really liked that scene, mostly because I want to go explore the Rushworth estate, especially that walked garden area. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting that she starts out with Edmund and Mary, and then they go off, and then next thing she finds Rushworth and Henry and Mariah and Julia, right? No, Julia was with the aunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, I think so. I don't really remember exactly who it was, but.
Right, because then Rushworth goes to get the key, and then Henry and Mariah slip through the fence, and then Julia comes before Rushworth, and she follows them, and then Rushworth is like, well, I wish they would have just waited for me to bring the key, but I guess I'll go catch up with them, but he never catches up with them.
Yeah. Poor Rushworth.
Yeah.
Yes, I think this scene shows really how the position of Fanny, because her family don't care about her. They just use her when they need her most of the time, and in that scene, all the other pursue their interests, their love interests, and they don't care about her. Mariah wants to go with Henry, and Edmund wants to be together with Mary, and so they purposefully leave her, and then she's alone and she cannot do anything, and she's just patient, trying to not to feel so bad about the situation. And I think that also represents how she's treated all the time in the book, and that she cannot do anything against the way that people treat her.
Yeah. As soon as she stands up for herself, she's ungrateful.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
Well, and it seems like people, like, she's just a piece of furniture in the room, and people act however they want in front of her, and they don't necessarily care that she sees them acting improperly or anything.
Yeah.
It's interesting because even as a reader, I even forgot about Fanny sometimes, that this was even like that she was even the protagonist, because really for the first like 50% of the book, she does feel like a bit of a side character because there's all this other drama going on with the other characters.
Yeah.
So I even wonder like if Austen even like did that on purpose a little bit to even make her a little bit forgettable so that she could like, you know, kind of come out of her shell more, and you see how she's like the consistent one in amongst these people, and she's like the most morally centered as well.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if she's forgettable on purpose a little bit.
Yeah. She's like a fly on the wall in her own life. Like,
but then she's surprisingly strong-willed too.
Yeah.
And her resolve and just her morals and everything like that.
Yeah, she doesn't do much for what concerns the plot. She only refuses Henry at one point, and everything happens thanks to the Crawfords, basically. So and she observes.
Yeah.
She observes everything, and she basically sees what other people don't, how people really are.
Yeah.
Well, and then the fact like that she would explain someone's character to someone else and they couldn't see that at all about that person.
Yeah. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like everyone else in the book sort of looks at their love interest with, like, the rose-colored glasses, and they're like, no, but they just refuse to see anything bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Fanny just sees right through people.
Everyone else is just really easily fooled, and she is not easily fooled.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting that she, like, kind of refuses to forgive anyone else if they're, like, into, like, I don't know, anything bad that they do or anything like she finds wrong with their character or their personalities, except for Edmund, who's like wishy-washy and kind of annoying. She's like, no, I love you. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I was like, I don't know. It just felt like she was so against anyone else having any flaws. And then, I don't know, but she would like forgive anything Edmund did ever.
I definitely had a problem with Edmund as a character because I felt similar in that he also was easily duped, and he kind of liked this other girl who like wasn't that great. And I was like, Fanny's the best, like why don't you see that? And I just felt like even at the end when they do kind of get together, it's like one paragraph, and it's like, oh well, I guess I'll be with you because, you know, you're the best, I guess. It's not like a romantic thing. It's kind of like, I will settle for you. And I was
married her as a friend.
About that.
Like, you're a good friend. We should get married.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. Go ahead.
I think it's nice that he was a friend to her all those years ago while no one really cared.
That's true.
But, you know, he did some things that I was so annoyed by. Plus, they're cousins. I forgot that back then cousins
are
got
cousins.
Married.
They're first cousins.
Yeah, they're like really related.
Close. Yeah, closer than that, you become siblings.
Yeah. It's like a mix of like the step siblings and the cousins just all together.
Yeah. He was my least favorite Austen love interest so far. But again, it just didn't seem like it was really about the love interest. I think Jane Austen was focused on the other aspects of the book and wasn't really concerned about making Edmund like as interesting of a character as like Darcy is.
Yeah. And I feel like Edmund and Fanny would be a good match. It just like, I don't know, it kind of broke my heart a little bit that he spent the whole book being like, I could never love anyone but Mary. Mary's the only one for me. And like, I could never see anyone else being my wife, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, he's like, well, I guess she's actually not great, so I'll marry you. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
I understand what you mean. I felt like Edmund really suddenly realized that Fanny is really special, and that, and so in this way, I try to imagine he fell in love with her because she already loved her as a friend, and now it was easy for him to also start to fall in love with her. I think.
Yeah.
So it was, I know what you mean, but for me, it was like not so. I hope that Edmund was really in love at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fanny just feels convenient. Like he's like, you're convenience and we're friends, so we'll get married. And I was like, oh, I don't like that.
I would have liked even just like a chapter on them like having a conversation about their feelings changing, but instead the narrator just tells us.
Yeah.
After we leave off the story, it's like the epilogue is they get married.
Yeah.
Henry was more heartfelt than Edmund. Like at any point, I was like, wow, Henry has some good speeches, but Edmund never really gets that.
No, all of his speeches are like, I'm sad that Mary doesn't love me. I'm sad that Mary doesn't want me to be a preacher. I'm sad about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and I was sort of talking to Amanda about this beforehand, and I don't know if this is how other people sort of read it, but I almost felt like Fanny's relationship with Henry and how it started reminded me of Pride and Prejudice, but it's like if Pride and Prejudice had gone a different way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
I can see this.
Like she didn't like him from the beginning, and he's kind of like uppity and like, I mean, Henry has different problems than Darcy, but I don't know. I just thought it was like interesting. The like sort of similar, like it could have gone like hate to love type thing, but did not at all.
Yeah, that would have been cool if it would have been hate to love. There's potential there. You're right, I think.
I kind of thought it was going to go that way because it didn't like, I don't know. But what were you going to say, Amanda?
I was going to say like it almost went that way too. And then he messed things up.
Yeah, really messed things up.
Like she was starting to think differently about him. Like, oh, he's not as bad as I thought he was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like one part of me thinks that if they had gotten together, he would have still cheated on her. But the other part of me wants to think that he was becoming a better person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
And that's when...
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think Jane Austen probably wanted us to see that Henry's just not reliable, and he's just a type of person who was going to like fly on the wind and just like follow his whims. I think that's kind of the point of his character.
Yeah.
So do you all think that Fanny should have given Henry a chance, or do you think she was right in refusing him?
Yeah, I think she made the right call, but I don't know that I would have made the same call as she did after like, because he went back to her like childhood home and hung out with her parents and like, but I was even thinking with the Mr. Darcy thing, because he got her brother into the, or like commissioned as an officer, and Darcy does, I mean, it's not the same thing, but like in Pride and Prejudice, he like gets Wickham his, is it Wickham or is that from the other one?
Yeah, saves Wickham and Lydia's reputation.
Yeah, okay. I can never remember which one Wickham and which one's Willoughby because they have such similar names. And they're like the same character trope. But yeah. But like, I don't know. I thought that was another similarity between the two is like the like gallant gentleman coming to save the day.
Yeah. And then offered like at a moment's notice to come and get her and take her home to Mansfield Park.
Yeah. But she definitely made the right choice because otherwise that would have been such a mess.
Yeah. And Fanny couldn't be deceived. And I think that's also kind of the character that Fanny is she will not be duped. Like she's seen too much life. she's had too many experiences, and she's like, she just sees the morality, and that's most important to her is what is their like moral center, and Fanny just can see that.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because so many people are their true selves around her because they like don't even consider that she's there. Like what we were talking about a second ago with like, she's just like a piece of furniture and they just walk around her and do whatever they're going to do. And so I think she like being raised like that, she can just see right through people.
Yeah, you're completely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I like Fanny more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I'm talking myself into liking her.
Yeah.
Best one.
I like Fanny. It's everyone else I didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting with the aunts, just because like it felt like Mrs. Norris and Lady Bertram were just like both wanting to look best. And that's why they even had Fanny come live with them. But then they were both just like horrible to her. But it was like they were trying to prove to each other that they didn't think Fanny was good enough to be with them, but that they were going to be so kind. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Well, and then how Mrs. Bertram treated her was very, very odd. I mean, she was a companion to her and like Fanny loved her, but like she was still talked down to and made to almost be a servant.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bertram.
And like there were explicit conversations when Fanny went out to dinner. I don't remember, was that at the Grants that she was invited to dinner and she ended up going? But like Lady Bertram had this whole conversation with her that was like, just don't think you're as good as my kids because you're not. And it's just like, I can't imagine taking someone in and then having that like telling them that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me. But
especially from the age of 10 to 19 is what we follow. It's like, it's so mean.
I know. Mm-hmm. And Fanny just takes it.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fanny really had a very, very hard life there. Really hard. Maybe that's also why she loves Edmund, because that was the only one there for him.
Yeah.
Maybe that explains it.
That's true. Yeah.
He was only nice. I don't know. He was like the only one who was nice to her, right? Because like Tom made fun of her and then the sisters were mean to her.
Right. They excluded her. And then he kind of initially was like, oh, I can tell you're really sad and I know you love your brother and you want to write to him. And she's like, but I have nothing to write him with. And he's like, well, I can take care of that. And so I think it was just him reaching out that hand of kindness to her. And then I wonder, like, if that hadn't happened, would she have developed those feelings for him? Or was it just because he was like the first person to show her kindness?
I think that's probably what it was, because he was like the first and kind of the only person to be kind to her until years later when Henry was like, maybe I do like you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be nice to you now.
And when Sir Thomas is like, yes, this little girl is fantastic.
Yeah. That came out of nowhere, I thought.
Yeah.
I think Jane Austen would have a lot to say about class and power, because I think all throughout Mansfield Park, we see different power dynamics, and we see how it can be very abusive, and how Fanny's basically like the punching bag for her aunts and stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Jane Austen is trying to say something about like the social classes of her time as well, and also like Mary, you were talking about how people act differently on the surface, and then there's the reality of what happens at home, right? And so we see a lot of that with Fanny and the way that her family deals with her, and how they kind of use Fanny to be like, oh, we are noble people because we took her in, and we, like, good job us. But then you see the reality of where their heart really is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't just Fanny either. They were also like sending money to her other family and like helping her brother and stuff, weren't they?
I think so. That was at least discussed at some point in the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It was very like, look at us, look how good we are, kind of.
Yeah.
And then when it came down to it, especially like, I feel like Mrs. Norris is who cracked me up out of that, because she was like, oh, I can't take Fanny in because I have to take care of my husband. He's really sick. And then as soon as the husband dies, she's like, oh, no, I have to have a guest room for friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one can stay with me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I found a discussion question that I didn't put in our chat that was like, find something positive about Mrs. Norris. I'm just like, there's nothing positive about her.
He went and took care of Mariah after all that happened when everyone else cut her off. That's the only positive I can think of.
Yeah.
She did that, and I was like, well, that's nice, I guess.
But it was her favorite.
Yeah.
She was the one that Mrs. Norris had the most like high hopes for.
Yeah. But at least Mrs. Norris didn't abandon her in the end, so.
Yeah, all right, Mary.
She stuck to her guns on that one, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think maybe he loved her like a daughter, maybe.
Yeah, like the kid she never had.
Yeah.
That could be. But I forgot that Yates was even a character until he came back and ran off with Julia. Is that what happened? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was in the play too, right?
Yeah.
How did they know him?
Yeah.
Because I didn't really I acknowledged that he was there, and then
he's
just
a
sort
friend of Tom.
He's a friend of Tom. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
And
he
then-
just came back at the end, and I was like, wait.
Yeah. And then he came to stay with them after leaving the other party he was with, who didn't want to do the play, and then he kind of conned them into doing the play with him.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So no wonder Sir Thomas didn't like him very much. He's the one who wanted to do the play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
morally bad man. I'm getting it.
But then conveniently for Yates, the drama all happened at the same time with Mariah and then him and Julia running off that Sir Thomas was like, all right, he's not that bad.
Yeah, they're like, could have been much worse, clearly. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
And then don't they like find out that he actually has more money and less debt than they thought he did? So they're like, great, perfect. Come on in.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family.
Because it's all about money and status.
Yeah. Gosh. Does anyone know how because the infidelity between Mariah and Henry was they put it in the newspapers. Was that a thing? Did you know?
I mean, I could see that being a thing.
I didn't realize that. I don't know. They had gossip columns back then, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
know.
That's a good question. If that was normal.
Yeah.
Just publish. Well, I guess it would have been because that's the whole thing. It would ruin your family forever. Because that's most of the drama there is that whatever happens with those two, like Lydia and Wickham as well, like whatever happens with those two, it ruins the rest of the family's reputation. Yeah. So it might have been a normalized kind of thing where it was like public news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we think that's also why Edmund ended up marrying Fanny? Because he wouldn't have been able to marry anyone else because his family was ruined? Would that have been a thing? I don't know. At this point, I'm just jumping to conclusions.
I know Mary had said something that finally clicked to him, and he was like, all right, I can't love this girl. Like she's no good. And then conveniently, here's Fanny. Okay.
I think she said that she wasn't sorry that Henry had pursued an affair with his sister. She was sorry that he'd gotten caught.
Oh,
I think that's what she said. And he was like,
yes, that's right.
Morally bad.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But even though she said she wouldn't marry you because you were joining the church.
That's my thing. I thought their relationship was over a long time before this because at Fanny's coming out, right? Yeah. Didn't they have this kind of argument about her never wanting to dance with someone who was in the clergy or something?
Mm. Yeah.
I thought that was the end of their relationship.
This is the last time I'm dancing with a clergyman.
Yeah.
And then his hopes and her hopes, if the older brother dies, then he becomes the oldest and he gets the fortune now. It's that is so awful to think.
Yeah. Yeah. How did Tom get sick? Does anyone know? I couldn't remember what happened. I remember him having a fever, but I don't know.
Probably alcohol poisoning. I don't know.
Probably.
He was
a little bit of
partying and drinking.
Yeah, he was a party boy.
Well, and they were worried because they moved him too soon, so he should have been recuperating a bit more before he got moved to the Mansfield Park. And yeah, I mean, it was probably just some sort of cold of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, back then you could die of fever because they didn't know how to treat stuff, and they would often make things worse. Like whatever sickness you got, they would make it worse. I think they were treating it. So people did die of colds and fevers.
Yeah. Gosh. I just couldn't remember if they'd said like what it was or what he'd been doing to catch it or whatever. But
no, I don't think there was anything specific. Another thing where we don't get all the details.
Yeah. There were a lot of those where like
there was the whole slave thing in Antigua too.
Yeah.
They talked about it, but not really. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Because was there like Sir Thomas had to go there for some reason, but was there like an uprising or something? Is that why he had to go? Because there was something wrong with the plantation. Did anyone catch exactly what it was, or was it even in there?
I thought, was he like starting a plantation? I feel like
maybe that's what it was.
I feel like he had some kind of like this was his project or something, but I could be wrong.
Some kind of business venture thing.
Yeah.
Which, that is interesting. I kind of forgot that even happened.
Me too. Yeah.
They just sort of go off. I mean, I guess it wasn't that big of a deal back then, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. Do you want to do another question?
Well, we've kind of
gone through them all
of them. Yeah. Oh, this one I thought was interesting and I don't agree with. In a way, Edmund created Fanny. His influence is a dominant force in shaping her character. Are these characters ultimately just a reflection of one another, or do they have distinct differences?
Edmund did not create Fanny.
I would say, if anything, Fanny kind of created Edmund being a good person.
Yeah.
Like she was like morally good, very sweet, very observant of other people, and tried to like steer him to the right path because he was nice to her.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't think he did anything in creating her except for like not making her miserable.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Bully for him, I guess. That's such an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
Huh.
No, I see Fanny as the opposite. Like Fanny is the only consistent one, and everybody else is affected by Fanny.
Yeah.
In the end, you know, like they see her truth and her morality, and they're like, oh yeah, you are the more like level-headed one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I just agree with that whole question's phrasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know more about, in a way, Edmund created Fanny.
Right?
How?
I'll have to see which one I got that from and send you guys the link.
Okay. I just want that like theory expanded upon for me, I think.
Yeah.
Show me the textual context.
Yeah.
Give me sources from the text.
Give me a page number.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. I do think in a way though that they are pretty similar of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of the beginning before Mary really starts to kind of influence Edmund and his thoughts and feelings, they are like, when we think about the play, like Edmund was so against it and so just he knew like this play was not moral at all. But then when he got the part to act as Mary's like love interest, he's like, okay, that's fine.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little double standard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are lots of things to analyze, maybe more than in other novels. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, say that one more time, Ellie. I didn't hear.
Excuse me. I said it seems to me now that there are more things to analyze in this novel than in the other novels. The other novels are more romantic, and so there are not so many things to analyze as in this novel.
I think you're right. I think there's a lot going on in Mansfield Park that's very like cultural context.
Yeah.
And I think there's some stuff that like we probably miss on a first reading that like it sounds like you picked up on a lot more on your reread, Ellie.
Yeah.
Oh, just a little bit. It's just some chapters I have to read again. It just just some chapters with more time or so to pick all the things that are there, I think.
Yeah. And I do think it's interesting that Mansfield Park, I guess that's probably why it's called Mansfield Park, but it's more about like the house and like the estate and the people living there and like coming through than it is about any one relationship or one character's. Even like Fanny, like we were talking about how she almost doesn't seem like a main character until Henry pursues her, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more just kind of using her as a viewpoint for the reader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like sort of forming the story around her adolescence as like an anchor point for what all is going to be talked about, I guess.
Yeah.
But I saw something interesting where like apparently people at the time were shocked that Jane Austen knew so much about Portsmouth. I don't know if anyone else came across that, but apparently she had like a really accurate portrayal of what life in Portsmouth was like.
Oh, yes, I read about that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jane Austen's brother was in the military. And so I think she knew about that. Like William's whole role, I guess, like the ship that he goes to is like a real ship that was next to the one that Jane Austen's brother went to, I think.
Oh.
She actually uses like a real ship in the book.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I didn't know if anyone else had read anything more about that, but
I might put something in my introduction.
It looks like she used some events and like places from her own knowledge.
Yeah. And this happened after her or she wrote this after her fiance. Did he die or did he leave her? I don't remember.
I think he passed away.
I think he died. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if that adds any context to like maybe why the sort of for the tonal shift instead of being about like, I don't know, because I feel like her other novels are about like finding love and falling in love mostly. And this one's very different. And I almost wonder if it's because, I don't know.
She was heartbroken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, any more discussion points?
I don't know. Let me see if I can find anything that we haven't really talked about.
I have a question. What do you find something nice in Mary? Do you like something about Mary?
Well, I have mixed feelings about Mary. I like well, I don't like, but she's really outspoken. She speaks her mind. She has no filter, but that kind of backfires at the end, like when she speaks about Tom and about the fact that if Fanny would have accepted Henry's proposal, nothing would have happened, or when she talked about the clergy. So, yeah, and then the friendship between her and Fanny, I don't know. I think it was more one-sided, and it wasn't, but I don't know.
Yeah. She almost reminds me of like, not really, but like Elizabeth Bennet, just because she has such an outspoken nature and she's so like willing to speak her mind, obviously without she's got like a lot of negative traits that Elizabeth Bennet doesn't have. But that's what I thought was interesting, is there was like a swap from like the heroine to one of the like bad side characters or whatever from like Jane Austen's usual tropes.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as like Jane Austen is really good at dialogue, and the most interesting dialogue was from Mary and Henry.
Yeah.
They were just spicier characters. They were a little bit more edgy and interesting. Like they always had like opinions, you know. So I did find their dialogue was, to me, like some of the most interesting dialogue when they would be talking. So I kind of liked them as characters until you see like, oh, okay, they're true colors by the end of the novel. But as far as like the rest of the book, like I really didn't enjoy like their banter with other characters, and I felt like Jane Austen got to kind of be spicier with their dialogue.
And I feel like I understood the draw towards those characters more so than I did a lot of the other characters, just because like they were so like charismatic and like, I don't know, bantery. Mm-hmm. So of the group, I feel like those are the ones who it makes the most sense for me for them to be like the ones drawing in other people, I guess. I don't really know.
Yeah, and that almost makes you drawn to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see how other people would be drawn to them as well.
Yeah,
you can see how they would be able to kind of like have power over others because of their charisma.
Yeah, and I definitely I got their appeal more than I got the appeal of like Edmund, I guess. Sorry, I don't mean to hate on Edmund so much. I know he was nice to her, and that's good, but I don't know.
Yeah, Edmund is not so.
He's just not a spicy love interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was your favorite book so far for the book club?
Mine's Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I love Pride and Prejudice, and my second favorite book is Northanger Abbey.
Okay, I'm excited to read that one. That's the other one. This and Northanger Abbey, I was like, I don't know what those are about at all. Yeah. So I had no idea what this book was about going into it.
Yeah.
So
well, I didn't know anything about Mansfield Park, and I watched the movies before reading the book because I don't usually read a lot of classics, so it takes me a little bit of time to get into the language. So sometimes it actually helps watching a adaptation.
Yeah.
So I did that, and it was better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch an adaptation because this is one of the few Jane Austens that I had no context for and hadn't seen a movie first. So I'm excited to watch them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested to see an adaptation of this. Serena, I don't watch adaptations before I read books, but sometimes if I, like with this one, if I don't really know what it's about and I don't like have any idea, and it's a classic that I think it'll be harder to get into, I will read a synopsis first. So I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, me too.
I'm the worst.
It depends of what I'm in the mood for, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't usually watch movies before reading the book, but with classics, I tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I just feel like it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I feel like after I watch the movies, I like more the books, I think.
Yeah.
Because the movies make the stories more romantic, and you also get to have more sympathy for all the characters and to get to know them more in a way.
Yeah.
So the movies have improved my. How can I say? I love the novels more because I watch the movies.
Yeah, that makes sense because like I feel like to make a successful movie, you have to make it like palatable for modern audiences. And so once you've seen the story changed into something that like is more modern, I guess, it makes going back and reading the original story, like it makes you appreciate it, I think, a little bit more. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
No, I think true.
I always have the actors' faces in my head, though, whenever I have an adaptation that I've watched. I'm like, yep, that's that actor.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
When I think about Northern Abbey, I always see the faces of the two protagonists of the movie, and I love them. I love the movie, so for me, it's even better when I think about Mr. Tilney and Catherine.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Did anyone have a favorite character that wasn't Fanny? Did anyone have like a favorite side character?
Henry.
That's fair. That's a good one.
I liked Henry as like he was just interesting to read from, but of course I don't like him later. But
yeah,
I liked him until that.
I mean, I think even with the like events of later, he is one of the more interesting characters because you get to see him on this like arc and progression and then regression. But like, I don't know, he's the one who like changes the most. I feel like.
Yeah. He's got some interesting, I don't know if it's necessarily character development, but he goes through some interesting things.
Yeah. What about you, Serena? Do you have a favorite side character?
I think Henry, too, is my favorite because he goes through a lot of character growth and I have mixed feelings about growth. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about him. So, and he was the most interesting apart from Fanny.
Yeah. Ellie?
I don't have any.
No.
I think Henry is really interesting. Yeah, and now that you are talking about him, I think that would be my favorite character from all the others. Yeah.
I didn't like any of the female side characters. Really.
I thought the dynamic between the sisters, like the aunts, was the most interesting side plot part. I don't know why, but that was something that I was like, I would like to know more about this. This is what I care about.
Yeah, like how does Mrs. Norris almost get to run Mansfield Park even though she's not like the lady of the house?
I don't know.
Is it because Mrs. Bertram's so passive?
I guess. Also, okay, this is very side note-ish, I guess, but was Fanny sick? Because they always talk about how she like gets really tired all the time and like is she sick?
It wasn't. They didn't say that, but it kind of felt like it when they were at Mr. Rushworth. Yeah. And they left her alone and she couldn't walk anymore. I don't know. It felt like she was a bit sick, but
then she goes back to Portsmouth and they like when Henry comes and finds her, he's like, gosh, you look worse than you did when you came to Mansfield Park the first time. Yeah. So like it almost makes me feel like she's just like a sickly person.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too, like when Edmund was loaning out his horse of hers to Mary for riding lessons. They're like, we can't interfere because you have to get your exercise.
Yeah.
And her exercise was riding the horse daily. Yeah.
I wonder if Fanny just absorbs all the negative energy around her and that's what makes her
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
That would make sense. I don't know. But that's something that I was curious about because I don't know. The first couple times I mentioned it, I was like, okay, maybe it was just like a hot day and she's tired or whatever. But then it kept happening, and I was like, something wrong with Fanny?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or was that normal? I mean, they did have to wear like a lot of really hot clothes, and I imagine it was like not super comfortable. But I don't know.
I think she's a little bit sick. She's not so strong as the others. She has some health problems that are not so strong, but that don't allow her to do all the things that the others can.
Yeah.
I was happy that her sister got to come back with her to Mansfield Park.
Me too. Yeah. I thought it was funny that her sister ends up like kind of taking her place for Mrs. Bertram or whatever.
Yeah, it's like she's afraid of being an empty nester. So it's like, okay, just keep sending like the next one to take care of me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was.
So.
you guys rate it? Do you do ratings for books?
I don't know what I'm gonna rate it yet.
I haven't rated it yet. No.
I gave it a low 3-star.
Um,
Ellie, what did you rate it?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think I would give it 3.5 or 4.
Okay.
Last time it was 3.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah.
I think I'm 3 stars. Yeah.
I feel like I'm probably gonna give it 3 stars. I usually run it through. I do like Cawpile or whatever, but if Cawpile doesn't say what I want it to say at the end, I just change things around. So I very much just sort of rate however I feel like I'm gonna rate, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I definitely didn't hate it.
Mm-mm.
And the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, okay, maybe I liked it.
Yeah. Same for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
For me, Pride and Prejudice was 5 stars. Emma was
Yeah.
4 stars, and then this one's 3 stars. So that's my ranking
yeah.
of the Austen that I've read so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave Pride and Prejudice 5 stars, and then Sense and Sensibility was like a low 3 star for me. I really didn't like the ending of Sense and Sensibility. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. We don't have to get into it here. I feel like I complained about that a lot when we read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this will probably be 3 stars. I do think I'm going to think about this book more than I think about Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility, just because, like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much that I didn't even, like, really process or think about as it was happening that I'm going to think about now that we've sort of talked about it. Because there are things that y'all have brought up that I didn't even consider when I was reading it. So,
Yeah. I think it'll be. Oh, go ahead, Victoria.
Oh, I just said there's a lot to chew on with this one.
yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting that in August we'll be reading Emma, because when I was looking for discussion questions, they compared Mansfield Park and Emma a lot. So it'll be nice to have those both like really fresh.
Yeah.
About
Lots
of like, how do you feel about the character of Fanny versus Emma and things like that. So yeah, it'll be really interesting.
Interesting, because I think they're completely different characters, like very different in their types. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm almost gonna, I guess I'm gonna look for like similarities or like at least like contrasts, like harsh contrasts between them.
Yeah.
Which I probably wouldn't have done before, but that is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I hated the character of Emma, so it'll be interesting to reread.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a feeling I might like Emma, but also I could be wrong. I've been wrong about lots of things before. So
I like Emma, but she is very polarizing, it seems.
Yeah. People either love her or hate her. I'm surprised that so many of us liked Fanny, because a lot of the like negative reviews I've seen of Mansfield Park have been people complaining that Fanny's too like uppity and too boring and whatever. But I think it is. What? Go ahead.
In the reviews, they say also she's too shy and too doesn't stand up for her. But I don't think it's like that. I think her situation is so difficult that she even is much better than many other people could have been in the situation that they are.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's commendable that she can even like hold her morals and standards after all that she's been through.
Yeah, she has so much more to lose than her cousins.
Yeah.
And she kind of does, because Sir Thomas does send her home at one point. So
all for not marrying Henry.
Yeah.
She has more of a tragic backstory compared to the other protagonists in the Austen novels. I think she might be the most tragic backstory as far as our 6 novels. So I can see her being kind of hard to understand if you take her out of that context and you just see her as like how she is. But I think if you know, like if you think about her background and what she's been through, like it makes sense the way that she acts the way she does.
Yeah,
I agree. That's how I felt when I was reading it, because I was like, her reaction seemed the most realistic to me, and her like behaviors, I guess, of all the like Austen characters. It seems like that's I don't know, that's how someone in that situation would probably be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. All right. Well, do we want to call it?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being flexible and being able to come on today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
And what?
We had a big group of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully we'll all be able to be on it next week, gosh, in 2 months.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Everyone's links to channels and Instagrams are in the description box. And
is the next Northanger?
Emma.
Oh, the next book is Emma. Okay.
Yes, I think it's Emma in August, Northanger in October, and then Persuasion in December.
Yeah,
I believe is the breakdown. So,
okay, cool.
I will see you all in August.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.